I would get really mad only when he would tell me he'd be back a certain time. And then eventually an hour, 2 hours have passed and he's not back yet.
Welcome to the vlog. In this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. A few weeks ago, I sent out an Instagram message like questions I should ask my wife about my cycling. And somebody even said that I was brave for doing that. So this is my wife, Steph, and you can talk to the mic.
Oh, hi everybody. Welcome to the vlog.
Okay, so I have a bunch of questions here that we're going to ask Steph. Okay, so it might be
I
fun.
haven't seen any of these questions, huh? You didn't show them to me.
Yeah, I know. I didn't show them to you. That's why. Okay. All right, let's start with this question. When I first wanted to get into cycling, do you remember your reaction?
I remember the first time you got a bike. It was a few days. No, it was a few days before I gave birth. No, you wanted to get a bike a few days before I gave birth. And you even asked me if you could stop by the bike shop while I was in the hospital in labor. So, of course, I said no. But eventually, you got it after I gave birth to Matty. Well, I remember my. I don't really remember my reaction, but I just thought it made sense. Where are you going? Okay. I thought it made sense because the reason why you got into biking at first was to make commute easier for you because you were driving a car, you were stuck in traffic for hours, and it just made sense. So I think my reaction was okay, go get it, but after I deliver this child into the world.
Yeah, I think I got the bike like a day or two after Matty was born. And it was a single speed Jamis Beatnik, not that you
You
care.
remember when you went to claim the birth certificate, you took the bike. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my first like real ride with the bicycle. Went to the hospital. So you were cool, right? You were cool with it. Okay.
I didn't. Yeah. And to be frank, I think I was pretty cool about it because it was not an expensive bike. It was pretty cheap, so I think that's probably why.
Okay, so we'll jump to that. Um, do you know how much my bikes, in plural, my bikes cost?
All of them? You have three. So you have the Canyon, sorry. You have the Surly. Okay, I'll take a rough guess. The Canyon was probably 120 plus maybe 50, 180 in total. Just the bikes. Oh, with all the other stuff that you put on it too. Maybe at least 300 grand. I don't know. Ish. Yeah, I'm thinking bike frames lang, but with all the other stuff you keep adding to it, yeah, maybe 300 grand.
Well, to be fair, I did not buy all of that. A lot of those things were also given, so it was it's balanced out. But yeah, it's probably worth about 300. Yeah, that's a pretty good. I think that's a pretty good estimate. Does that bother you at all?
No, it's your money. Maybe at first when you tell me about it, but that's your money.
Also, feel free to get them.
Oh, sorry. Not really. I just joke about how ridiculously expensive sometimes these bike parts are. But I know you use it a lot and you use it every day. I mean, you use it to the point that they break eventually. It's not like it's just being displayed at home or anything. So I think, I mean, I were to be really honest about it, I'm not really bothered. Maybe I just get surprised every once in a while. Yeah. And just make sure you give me gifts too every birthday, good gifts. Then I shouldn't be worried.
I still owe you a gift. To be fair, you haven't given me what you want, but So you mentioned that I use the bike a lot, right? No. And I think we should I might edit this to make this in the beginning, but I think we should tell people like how many years we've been married. Um like I've been cycling for pretty much almost 6 years. That's the yeah, like 5.5 years. And then we've been married. We've been together.
14? Together 14, married 9.5.
Uh-huh. Two kids, one on the way. And so I have three bikes. I have more bikes than kids.
Eventually it'll be the same. One is to one, pretty much.
Do you count the e-bike?
No, I don't count the e-bike. The e-bike is like a car for me.
Okay. So going back, you know that I've already like I bike a lot, right? So considering how much I bike, how do you think my cycling has affected our family and our daily routine?
Okay, I think we have a pretty solid routine. So you're cycling every day, almost every day. I think you go cycling, what, 5, 6 days out of a week? You take one, two maximum days off. This is probably the longest you've gone without biking in a while. Um, I think we have a pretty. Yeah, we're one weekend into a holiday here in Turkey, so he hasn't been biking for a week. Ever since we got here in Cappadocia, he's been like, no, a lot of walking. It's a lot of cardio, I must say.
It's a lot of cardio for you. This is like nothing.
Oh, but like ever since we got here, because Cappadocia, it's all like really cool landscapes and stuff. You've been talking about a lot about biking. But anyways, going back, has it affected our routine? Um, how do I answer that? Yeah, I feel like we have a pretty solid like day to day schedule and day to day routine, and we talk about what goes on each day. And I feel like it was you who adjusted to when you would insert your cycling. So, in terms of how it affects your day to day, it doesn't affect it so much. Maybe just on the weekends when I feel that, you should be biking less. But at the same time, that's when you like to bike more because that's when your friends are out biking. So, it's a lot of, I guess, just meeting halfway, making sure we both get what we want. Um, but yeah, like going back to the question in terms of the routine, he goes out cycling pretty much in the mornings on a weekday. So the way we do it, um, when before I got pregnant, or even now that I'm pregnant, one of us takes the kids to school. After he takes the kids to school, he squeezes in a quick bike ride. Before I got pregnant, he would get out really early in the morning and be home by breakfast time. So that's a weekday bike ride. And then on the weekends, that's when you go on your long bike rides. I just make sure he's home by lunch because we usually have Saturday lunch dates. So that's a big non negotiable for me. And then Sundays are usually family time and family days. So we go to church. Most Sundays, I make sure he gets back before lunch. There are some nuances which he tells me weeks in advance. I think that's the thing too. So if he wants to go on a really long bike ride, he tells me way advance, like maybe weeks ahead, days ahead. So at least we can plan around it. So yeah, I think hasn't really affected our routine so much. And if there are times where it does, it's because you just, I think you have a way of just telling me in advance and then we work around the schedule.
I think it's also important to note that in terms of work, we've been pretty lucky in that we are able to control our time. So in fact, the routine looks like They are really dry. It's the weather. Um, the routine looks like, so generally I'll wake up early, I'll go on a bike ride. Steph brings the kids to school, and then yeah, she makes breakfast. She makes the kids breakfast. She wakes the kids up. She does everything while I'm on the bike ride. And then you're ruining my train of thought. So I'm on the bike ride. Steph is doing all the things with the kids, and then brings them to school. And then when I get home, I'll still even be on my cycling outfit. I'll end up doing the dishes, cleaning the kitchen, making my own breakfast, doing everything, and that's when Steph gets ready. And then by the time I'm done with all of that, yeah, usually I get to take a shower. Then I have to pick up one of the kids from school, and then after picking him up, we have lunch. Sometimes Steph's not home. Sometimes I'm not home. So that's when it kind of changes the routine depending on our work demands. Then, but generally speaking, that is the routine for the cycling.
Cycling is pretty much in the morning. He hardly goes out on a bike ride in the afternoon. If he does, that's because he didn't go biking in the morning for whatever reason. But generally, yeah, it's pretty much our day to day. Doesn't change very much. Maybe weekends are a little bit more flexible for us, I think.
Do you think cycling has affected my personal and emotional health? How has it been being around me? Okay, I know the answer to this. So there's if I haven't biked in a long time, how is it being around me compared to when I've biked when I have my regular bike schedule?
So Carlo, when he doesn't bike in a while, he's like a woman on PMS, basically. No, it's true. It's um well, physically, first of all, I feel like this is the fittest you've ever been. You are how old? 39? I just told everybody your age. Yeah, 39. And I feel like you're much fitter compared to even when we got married. You're much more conscious about your health, which is good because we have this thing about just trying to outlive each other. We don't want to be like old and frail and not be able to walk when we're in our 60s. So um, that's one thing. Emotionally, I feel like when you get, where are you going? I mean, yeah, it's pretty obvious that after a really good bike ride, you're generally in a really good mood. Um, I feel bad for him sometimes because I feel like sometimes he's so excited to talk to me about his ride and all these bike stuff, but I can't really relate so much. But I try most days. And yeah, and then those days where he can't go on a bike ride, or if it's gone like maybe several days for whatever reason that he hasn't gone on a bike ride, or he can't go on this epic event race or whatever, kind of ruins his mood. Yeah, that's true. Um, it's a bit annoying sometimes, but yeah, I guess that's just how he is. He gets sapot and irritable when he doesn't get to bike.
So
Maybe a level lower, one level lower than that.
okay, I'm not gonna argue. So since you can't relate, how come was there would you ever want to try going on a bike ride or get into cycling?
No, because okay, he's been wanting me to go cycling with him ever since he started biking. I got into indoor cycling for a while. I really enjoyed it. Um, but then my favorite indoor cycling gym's no longer around. So, uh, and now I'm pregnant. And I'm kind of lazy. But I try to exercise. But I don't know. I just I don't know. It's not for me. It's really not. I mean, I don't want to have to force myself to get into something that I'm not really into. So, you do you, I do me.
Yeah, usually, I get on Steph to try to exercise more. And before she was pregnant, she actually did that. You were pretty good at it. You did like what, 4 times a week? Every day? You're doing every day at home. Yeah. But that's important. So before she was pregnant, she was doing it every day at home, exercise. And now that she's pregnant, I unfortunately cannot force her to do stuff anymore because it's hard when you're pregnant.
It is. It's true.
Okay, so um, you mentioned that sometimes you just want you like, especially on the weekends, you want me home by lunch. No, can you talk about some of the times that I was not home by lunch?
I try to not think about those days anymore. Um, okay, so like for example, we have like a family lunch on a Sunday. Oh, not Sunday. Sundays recently have been pretty okay. Or there were a few times we would have arguments because our youngest just recently he just finished his gymnastics program, but he would have like a gymnastics class every 9 o'clock on a Sunday. So I would always prefer that we go and bring him together and then we go to mass together after that and have family lunch after that, like do a whole family Sunday thing. And then there would be days he'd be like, "Oh, can I go on a bike ride? Because my friends are going. They're going up this trail, whatever." I could name a few trails. They're in my head, but like, never mind. Um, And I'd say no. And he'd be like, why? Like, can you just take the kids and then I'll meet you for like mass or something? Di ko musugot. So, um, we'd bicker and argue about it and get over it. I can't really recall. Was there ever a time I got really mad? Oh, maybe, no? Maybe. I think, no, here. I would get really mad only when he would tell me he'd be back a certain time. And then eventually an hour, 2 hours have passed and he's not back yet. But that's happened, to be fair, only a few times, maybe less than 10, less than 5 from what I remember. I don't know if there have been more. Have there? Has there been more times?
You know why that hasn't happened anymore? Because I don't give a time anymore on when I'll be back. I just say I'm going out on a ride
Yeah,
and
because
I'll
you
be
know, on
back by.
weekends it's by lunch. It's by lunch. Weekends are lunch.
Yeah, lunches. There's a very wide range of time when it's lunch. So you before I made the mistake of saying I'll be back by 12, and then yeah, 12:30 comes and I'm still not there. So if I say lunch, 12:30 is still lunch.
I think there was one time we left without you with the kids.
Oh, more than once. More than once. It has to be said that one of the number one, it was really hard to get this like interview thing going. We tried to do this like 3 or 4 times, and we finally have the time to do it. And we're kind of late for checkouts. We're kind of rushing this a little bit, but it should be noted that Steph only agreed to do this because this video is sponsored by her AXA business. I'll show you. Let me give me a sec.
Cue and music. Cue and music. There you go.
Kind of warm, so I want to take this off.
Okay. All right. Gotta see Carlo take off his shirt. Oh, yeah.
I can just fast forward this.
All right.
So can you wanna why don't you talk a little bit about your work? Just a little bit. Just like oh, so I'll do it. So Steph works for AXA. Uh she's she's an insurance agent, and the nice thing is she's able to number one, she's actually really good at her job. Yeah, really good at her job. I don't know exactly what she does, but she's really good at it. And the thing is, one of the things that I appreciate with her working in AXA is that it has made her work life a lot more balanced. So prior to this, she used to work in a company, and she'd go to the company. We wouldn't see her for the whole day. And in fact, that changed when our firstborn was born. And then you still stayed in that company for a while, but then you quickly realized that you wanted to be home more for the baby, right?
Yeah, so when I gave birth to Manu, I found it very difficult to balance, work and then family time. And then Manu was just a newborn. So, I was telling Carlo, I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to be home more with the kid, with my child, with my baby. And, if I kept doing what I was doing, it'd be very difficult for me. I was breastfeeding. So, if you're a mom and you're breastfeeding, I'm sure you can relate. It's really difficult, especially if you're like always stressed out and tired. So basically left the company cold turkey. Um, I was talking to Carlo about it, and he was like, "Why don't you try reaching out to Anne? It's her birthday today, by the way. Happy birthday!" I don't know if this is gonna be released. No, it's not gonna be released on her birthday anymore. But anyways, so why don't you reach out to Anne, who's my manager, and who was my insurance agent back then, who's been inviting me to join AXA for so many years, I've turned down all the time. They want you reach out to Anne and talk to her about AXA. It was actually his idea to reach out to Anne about AXA, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't have sales background. I don't know anything about insurance. But he's like, yeah, just try and talk to them, and then so eventually talk to my mentors who are like to talk to John and Anne who are now my mentors in AXA, and here I am, 7 years later, 7 years already into the business, and I can't imagine doing anything else. I love what I do. Number one, mainly because I get to be around my family. I'm very flexible with my time. If I need to be with the kids, I can be with them. I don't have to ask permission with anyone. If I need to be at work, I can do it from anywhere. Like later this afternoon, we have a lot of time, so I might squeeze in some work before we fly out back to home. Second, it's a lot of fun. I work with so many great people, and I think that's what makes my job and my business like really fun. Like, we do our businesses together, we travel together, we eat out. It's so much fun, and of course, yeah, with my colleagues at AXA. So it's just really being it's so much fun being around them, and of course, we get to really help Filipino families. So, when we talk about insurance, it's basically just helping people prepare for the unexpected things. So, I got to, um, how do you say that? Really appreciate the business more, especially when I entered into the business. I was a young mom. We were starting out our family. So, a lot of the things I do now are actually things that, you know, we would ideally should be talking about already as a married couple and as parents and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, I think those are the three things um, why I love what I do. And yeah.
Well, so speaking of stuff like that, so when I go cycling, especially when we first moved to the house, the house that we live in now, I wasn't that familiar with the area, so I was doing a lot of exploration and a lot of rides where I didn't know the area. And of course, when you're doing a sport like cycling, uh, it is unavoidable to get into some accidents. No, yeah, I've had a couple of accidents. How have you felt about that in terms of me getting accidents?
Okay. I remember when he first got into cycling, he had a really crappy helmet. It was like a very cheapy pie helmet that he got from like downtown or something. I don't know, like 1,000 or 2,000 pesos. I'm like, Carl, 500, imagine 500 pesos. Oh my God. Okay. So, when I found out it was really cheapy by helmet, and I'm medyo praning man said ko. Like, I'm, like a typical wife. I want to make sure my husband doesn't die on me or anything. I made sure he got a pretty decent helmet. That was the very first thing I did. I got you a helmet. It was a second-hand helmet I got from my friend, but it's a much better helmet than what he had. It was a little bit small, I think you said, but it was a much better helmet. In my head, if you're gonna fall off your bike, that helmet would protect your head more than your Chipipai one. Um, but having said that, I think I sort of made a agreement with you that just make sure you are well protected in case anything happens. If you get to have to go to the hospital, yeah, in terms of insurance, you're covered. So we have all that planned out already. When you go out on a bike ride, I think I've already accepted the fact that anything could happen. So I know you have your Strava. I just make sure you send me a link every time. So the Strava beacon, is that what it's called? So every time he goes on a bike ride, he sends me a link so I can track where he is. If in case anything happens, God forbid, I'll know where to get him. I'll know where to find his body. At least that's there. So we have little things that we do just to keep me feeling safe as well, I think. And yeah, and then all the insurance plans that we have for ourselves, I think also help give me the peace of mind that in case you do get into an accident, you'll be taken care of. I wouldn't have to worry about anything. When he goes on bike trips, bike events, regardless where he goes, whether it's outside of the Philippines or even in God knows where in the Philippines, he gets insurance just in case he gets hurt or if his bike gets damaged. Yeah, so
That's actually really important. Like when there are these like news sometimes, like there's like a triathlon in Davao, right? And then some of these riders bring like very expensive bikes. Like the bikes are like 400,000 pesos, and then I think there was one lady, she had like a Trek something bike, like a triathlete bike, and then like I think the airline really like broke the fork or something, and then that's probably, I don't know, maybe 50,000 pesos just to just to fix, and I assume that's covered by the travel insurance.
it depends. So depends on their travel insurance, I guess. I'm not gonna go into detail. That's not the episode for that. But generally, they will cover a certain amount, like up to a certain amount. And for me, like if if those things happen, at least you get compensated for the inconvenience. Like Carlo recently went on a trip, his flight got moved. It was kind of hassle, but we managed. He was able to claim a portion of what he had to spend to rebook his flight through his travel insurance. So things like that. So I think yun lang, like I think it just helps to prepare ahead. Going back to me, how I feel about you going out on bike rides in unknown places because you just go everywhere basically. I don't have to worry so much because again we talk about it. You have your insurance plans in place. You have your Strava. You tell me also where you're going. I know who you are with. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you are alone. But the Strava, I think the Strava also helps.
And I think I've also proven that I am capable of taking care of myself. I think that's another thing. No? Like because uh yeah, like when something, I think that generally speaking, when I go on a bike ride and then when I'm out in the middle of nowhere, I've shown you, probably shown you by just not kanang, I haven't gotten to a hospital from a bike ride. But even if I did, the thing is, like, I think I've shown that um, I am capable of not getting into huge accidents. And when it does happen, if because it probably will in all likelihood, right? Because considering how much I bike and foot. Anyway, but I think I've shown that I am capable of handling a situation if it does occur, right? And I don't want to paint that cycling as that much that dangerous of a sport. In reality, like even a sport like basketball, there is way more injuries. Like all of my friends,
You're, I think with any sport, it's relatively uh relatively the same, like in terms of the risk of getting hurt. So, like as Carlos said, he's proven to me that he knows how to handle generally. Like he'll know what to do if something happens. And then we have, yun nga, like what I said earlier, we have those little things in place to help also should something happen to him when he's out on a bike ride.
Okay, let's move on. So, do you, last few questions. All right, because we gotta go. We gotta go. Um, do you feel like I spend too much time cycling?
Sometimes. Sometimes. Oh yeah, like I think that's why we started going out on the weekend dates. Um I think that was really more for me than it was for you. Um but yeah, you do cycle a lot. Sometimes I feel like it's too much. Um but also at the same time I'm okay, Raman. Okay, Raman. As long as I still get to do what I want, like when it terms like, like if we want to go on vacations with the kids, I think you also know to give to me what I want. So like if I want to go on a trip or like on a weekend thing with the kids or do something on a weekend with the kids, I generally get to do that even with all the cycling that you do.
Oh, and I think like one of the most fun trips that we've done, like especially last year, were all of the Audax rides. Where did you go to all of the rides? But most of no, you did Dumaguete and Bohol. That's it. Yeah. So yeah, we did like we made like the bicycle trips, family trips whenever possible. Especially if it's like yeah, Steph likes going on trips as you can see. Especially the especially if it's a ride in a place that is nice even if you're not on a bicycle. Last question, do you have oh, the road trips are fun. Yeah, 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 yeah. Like even just in Cebu where we go to a beach and then
Like when you go on a road trip, like in Cebu, diba? You can go on road trips anywhere. I just automatically assume car you're gonna bike because he would by default bike to the destination. So I drive. Me and the kids would be in the car. We'd drive to the destination. We'd meet him there. So that's usually how we would do our like local vacations in Cebu. If we go out of Cebu, like what we did last year with Dumaguete and Bohol, he would not bike because it's a long the out of town trips are longer bike races or bike events. So usually he doesn't bike that anymore. Um yeah, sometimes he would just catch up also. Like you'd go ahead and then me and the kids would catch up and join him like when the day of on the day of the race and then just extend a day or two.
so last question. Do you have any advice for spouses of avid cyclists or anything that you want to say to them?
Okay. I think the reason why I'm totally okay with all your cycling stuff most times is that number one, in terms of spending on the bike, it's his money. So we have this whole that could be a different episode. This whole system when it comes to our finances, na his money is his money, my money is my money. So whatever I want to spend on as well, yeah, that's why. So whatever I want to spend on, he doesn't he doesn't care. He really does not. So and then we have a shared, what do you call it? Like a shared pot for our family stuff and day to day stuff that where yeah we both contribute to that regularly. So I know he has his own money for his spending on his bike. Sometimes I would question it and ask, yes, do you vivid memory? We were having dinner and then he was talking about his first or maybe his second bike and then your dad was there. And then I'm like, Carl, are you gonna buy this thing or buy the bike? It's like, yeah, yeah. And then, after this, I'm not gonna buy now or something. And then your dad goes, huh, that's what you say now. And he was so right. Totally right. So, um, yeah, I think that's one thing. So whatever he spends on his bike, Either he spends it with his own money or he earns it because of his vlog, right? Second, um, it's important that you also have time to yourselves. So being married is a it's a journey. It's fun, but it's a lot of work. It's fun, but it's a lot of work. So you know, I think for a lot of couples, it's very important that you like each of you would have time to do things that you like to do on your own. Like for Carlo, it's cycling. For me, it's a whole bunch of stuff. Like I do a lot of things. Like I go out with my friends. I'll go like on a spa day. I'll go shopping or whatever. But yeah, I think that's important, and I think that's why generally I'm pretty okay with his cycling stuff. Because we put effort to give time to the kids and the family and and the both of us, and we also have time to do our own stuff.
Okay, we gotta check out of the room because we're 20 minutes over the checkout. No boring days. Please subscribe.